this week we're going to talk about textbook reading. That is, we want to address how do you effectively read a math textbook so that it doesn't seem just like a bunch of gibberish, if you will, and you can actually get the information out of it that you need to be successful in your math class. So many students just don't bother to read a math textbook. It's difficult to read, so and you also often believe that the instructor will give you all the information that is needed in a lecture, which isn't always the case. And the math textbook turns into just simply a really expensive place to find homework problems. But believe it or not, your instructor does expect you to read that textbook and to read sometimes in a little bit more detail things that your instructor talked about in class. Also to look at things like examples, which will be different examples probably than what your instructor has shown you in class. And those are examples that you can see worked out and continue the learning process before you get to the point where you're starting to try to do homework and showing what you have learned about how to do something in your mathematics class. So reading in any subject area is referred to as content area reading. That is reading done in a particular subject area or a particular curriculum, if you will. And each subject or curricular area has some different approaches to how you go about and read things. For instance, math is something that you tend to have to read in kind of a non-linear way. That is, you don't just start at the beginning of a section and read to the end of a section and you're done. You may start at the beginning of a section, read a little ways in, get stuck, have to go back, maybe go to other parts of the book to get some additional information, then come back, start over again and reread, get a little bit further, repeat that process. So there's a lot of jumping around, there's a lot of starting and stopping that goes on in mathematics. And if you don't expect that, if you're not prepared for it, it makes the reading seem that much more difficult. Other subject areas will have other strategies that are particularly useful for reading in those areas, which may be different from what we talk about for math. So we're going to take a look at three different sets of strategies. We're going to look at before reading strategies, during reading strategies, and after reading strategies. And one of the things I do want to point out, you'll hear me say this a lot over the course of the semester, is don't try to do too many new things at once. Typically, when you're going through a study skills course, you want to try one, maybe two new study skills at a time. Get a chance to practice those for potentially a couple of weeks and see if they work or not. See if you can make them become a habit if they do work. See if you can adjust them if they don't work, or find something else that works better. But don't try to do too much. If you try to do 5, 6, 7, 10 different things all at once, it's a quick recipe for failure in terms of study skills. So we'll show you lots and lots of different ideas all semester long. And the reason for that is because different ideas will click with different people. What works for you doesn't necessarily work for another student taking a math class. So we want to give you lots of ideas to choose from so you can find ones that work for you. Don't try to do them all, please. So returning to our reading strategies, before reading, one of the things you want to do is activate your prior knowledge. And that's as simple as just sitting back and thinking about what do you know about the topic that you're going to be discussing next in your math class. If it's factoring polynomials, have you ever done that before? Do you know what that is? Do you know what the word factor means? Do you know what the word polynomial means? You're going to want to consider your purpose for reading when you start to read. Are you trying to learn something in depth? Are you trying to get a quick overview? Are you just trying to figure out what the new vocabulary words are? We have a lot of different reasons for reading something, and we may read it multiple times with different purposes, trying to get different information out of it. You may skim something first just to see what it looks like. You may go back through and read in more detail another time. You may return a third time looking just for examples or just trying to pull out new vocabulary terms and things like that. So think about what your purpose is at the moment that you are planning to read something. When you do read, it's always a good idea to preview. Most people don't pick up a magazine and just start reading it from beginning to end. They kind of flip through it a little bit, see what it looks like. Same is often true with books as well. My grandfather used to read the first chapter of a book and the last chapter of a book to get a feel for what the book was about, and then he would decide if he wanted to read the stuff in between. A little bit of a weird way to read books, but it worked for him. When you preview, for things like headings and subheadings, they give structure. Look for graphs, tables, and illustrations. They give us a pictorial view of what we're going to be looking at. Look for things in captions. Look for words that have been highlighted through the fact that they're bold or they're italicized. And there's more things that you can look at, and the textbook talks about more things. But preview that text. Get a feel for where it is, what it is you're going to be doing, and how things are structured. And then determine what reading strategy you're going to be using for the during reading portion of your reading. So during reading, you're going to want to make sure that you're monitoring your comprehension. That is, are you understanding what you are reading? Are you accomplishing your goal? If not, you're going to need to adjust your reading strategies as you go along. You want to make sure you're identifying the major concepts. If you've done some good previewing of headings, that helps. If you can, try to visualize what you're reading. Maybe have a piece of paper and try to draw some pictures that help you understand it. That can really deepen your understanding of what it is that you're reading. Look at the images that are on the text page as well. As you come across vocabulary that is new or unfamiliar, identify it, define it. This is a good notes to be taking while you are reading. That is, reading isn't something that we just do with our eyeballs. It's something that we can do with pencil and paper as well. So make sure you're identifying and defining new terms and ideas as you see them. Read through those examples, especially graphics and problem-solving examples, to get a feel for what the solution procedures look like in a specific part of mathematics. Analyze the problems, symbols, formulas, and charts. Try to find things that are similar so that you can, instead of maybe thinking of a section as having 20 different kinds of problems in it, maybe it has 4 different kinds of problems that just look a little bit different. But by analyzing those problems, you can see what they have that are similar and make them applicable to the same kind of solution process. And as I've already mentioned, take notes. Highlight, outline, make marginal notes if it's okay to write in your book or your course packet. Create graphic organizers. I'll show you an example of what one of those looks like in just a moment. Summarize paragraph sections in your own words. Write things down. This is sometimes called annotation. The whole process, highlighting, outlining, summarizing, graphic organizers are annotation processes and ways for you to take what you're reading and turn it hopefully into your own knowledge. This is a quick example of what a graphic organizer looks like. In this case, the student was looking at section 1.2 of their math textbook, which covered the idea of addition. So that's right in the middle of this graphic organizer, and then there are arrows that point out to various other ideas that are important. Place value, there's a picture for it. Place value, there are some words for it. Idea about how to combine and some vocabulary ideas, some special laws that show up, an example of how carrying can work. So this might be a way to capture information for you and put your own structure on the math that you're learning. Once you're done with your reading, so after reading, you want to use the annotations that you did, notes, graphic organizers, summaries, to help you understand the new information you're working on. You want to consider how that new information fits with previous things that you already know. Math courses build, so it's important to connect things to what you've already done in this math class and in other math classes you have taken prior to the one that you are currently in. Did you fulfill your purpose for reading? And if you didn't, what's your next step? Are you going to get help? Are you going to reread? Are you going to change strategies? What are you going to do? If anything was unclear, you want to make sure that you make notes about that and you get those things cleared up, either by asking your instructor questions or going to the math lab or rereading or watching videos on the internet. There are all sorts of different ways that you can use to help clarify things that were unclear the first time through. And of course, rereading is a great strategy to try to help out doing that. You may want to adjust your before and during reading strategies if your first run through left you unclear on some things, to see if that will improve your strategies as you go forward.